If we install a system to oxygenate the bottom of the lake, will it stir up all that toxic muck and make the water cloudy or release bad smells? So let's talk about the bad smells first. They are caused by noxious gases like hydrogen sulfide, which gives off that typical rotten egg smell, methane, which smells sort of hydrocarbonish, and ammonia. Hydrogen sulfide and ammonia are toxic to fish. I consulted on a lake in India called Lake Bellandur, which is famous for bursting into flames, literally. So much methane is produced that it can catch fire and the flames burn at the surface as the methane is released from the bottom. So you don't want any of those gases dissolved in the bottom water of your lake. The volume of those gases that are present will depend on the volume of hypoxic water there is. So in general, the deeper the lake and the more hypoxic it is, the greater the potential for those gases to be released, because they can only be produced in anoxic water by anaerobic microbes. We've had some interesting experiences when initially starting up radar systems. In one case, it was a lagoon reservoir in a large prison complex and received a lot of wastewater. There was a crew out on the boat, and they immediately grabbed the walkie-talkie in a mad panic and said, "We've got a problem. We must have hit an oil supply pipeline or something. We can smell diesel or oil or something." And it was actually methane that was being gassed off. So we turned the system off, pulled them in off the water, and then went back to getting the system started up again. Another lake out here on the East Coast, we could smell rotten eggs from the shoreline within a couple of minutes of starting up, and that's hydrogen sulfide. So what we do is shut down, allow the noxious gases to dissipate and blow away, and then we start up again. And if we smell the gas again, we shut down again. On that lake, it took a whole day of starting up and shutting down to off-gas the hydrogen sulfide. We call that burping the system. So there's two things to note. The first is, can you imagine how noxious and toxic the water is when there's such a high concentration of those horrible gases at the bottom? You'll never have a healthy lake and healthy fish with conditions like that. You have to get it out the water and gassed off. But there's a way to do that safely, and that's how we do it. The second thing is your concern about the muck, about stirring up the muck and making the water cloudy. That's a real concern with a lot of aeration systems. They do stir up the sediment and remobilize the nutrients and not oxygenate the water. That's why many diffuser designs have to lift the diffusers up on a raised stand or a platform to keep it above the sediment. But then, of course, sediment doesn't get oxygenated. That's why so many aeration systems don't work or make the lake worse, not better. Radar diffusers do not do that. If they did, they wouldn't be specified for drinking water reservoirs where suspended solids and total organic content, particularly around the abstraction gates, which is where they want the water well oxygenated, must be absolutely minimized in order to minimize the amount of treatment chemicals used to treat the water, because higher chemical use can lead to high levels of what they call disinfection byproducts, which can be carcinogenic. The thing is, producing enough oxygen flow to gas off the noxious gases is a one-time event. Once the bottom water and sediment is oxygenated, those gases can no longer be produced. So there's no more smell. And you can measure hydrogen sulfide and ammonia levels in the bottom water to prove that. And as I said, radar systems do not stir up sediment, so there's no problem on that front. If killing the algae just adds to the muck at the bottom, what happens to the algae when your system restores the food web? Don't they still die and sink? No, you're not understanding the food web. When you have no oxygen in the bottom water, animal life in the food web cannot survive in that water. So there's no functional food web in that water. So the capacity of the food web to consume algae is reduced, but more nutrients are recycled, so more algae is produced. So you have more production of algae and less consumption of algae, and algae cells have a very short lifespan, so you have more unconsumed algae dying off and sinking to the bottom. So that's a vicious cycle, a positive feedback loop that gets worse as it makes itself worse. So that's how just killing off algae just adds muck to the bottom. So what we do is reverse that cycle. We oxygenate the whole water column, so there's more water to support the animal life in the food web. So the capacity of the food web to consume algae is increased. So more algae is consumed and less dies off. And because the sediment's well oxygenated, nutrient recycling is suppressed. So there's less algae produced. So less algae produced and more algae consumed. That's where the algae go, into the food web to grow and sustain all the animal life that make it up. You said this isn't a quick fix. If we stop spraying chemicals and switch to your method next spring, what is our lake going to look like in summer? Are we going to lose a whole season of swimming and boating? We've never had a lake lose a whole season of swimming and boating after switching away from spraying biocidal chemicals and changing to a healthy lake remediation program. In fact, we have 3 lakes that we're working on this year, all of which had toxic HABs and emergency algicide treatments last year. And all of them are showing much better phytoplankton balance and no sign of HABs so far. And we're into July. So it's not like a lake has to get worse before it gets better. When I say it isn't a quick fix, I mean that a sustainable biological recovery is not like dumping a ton of algicide in a lake and then measuring chlorophyll A levels and saying, oh, look, the chlorophyll A levels have gone down, your lake is safe again, until next month when the toxic HABs return. To biodredge away hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of organic sediment can take a few years. To swing phytoplankton balance from 100% toxic cyanobacteria at a level of hundreds of thousands of cells per mil to less than 20% cyanobacteria and 10 or 20,000 cells per mil can take a few years. But you will see measurable improvements from year 1. You showed a sonar scan where the fish moved deeper after the lake was oxygenated. Our local fishermen love that the fish are clustered near the surface because they're easy to catch. Won't oxygenating the bottom make fishing harder? You've just got lazy fishermen. When the fish are all forced up into the upper portions of the water, they tend to be a lot smaller. They're more visible to birds of prey because they can't go down to the deeper water and hide. Pathogens and parasitic protozoa can proliferate in hypoxic organic sediment, so fish health and physical conditions often poor. When the fish can go deeper, you get more fish, healthier fish, and bigger fish. And most fishermen see that as a positive thing. So let's end off with some video testimonials on this.
A lot of the guys come down and go fishing after work, and they were remarking how before the fish were always diseased and had a lot of open sores on them, and now they're beautiful, healthy fish.
So, as you can see, there's all the arcs. Each arc is an individual fish, and 3 to 5 years ago, they used to be only down to about 15 feet because of the oxygen not reaching all the way down. But now they're getting all the way down to the bottom, and they're sitting down on that bottom. And fishing has improved a lot. There's a lot more fish and a lot more big fish that you're able to catch, just because they have the oxygen to be able to survive anywhere where they need.
I have some friends that are pretty good fishermen. They've been coming out here and catching 60 to 70 fish in a night.